Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. William Schnoebelen coming to you from With One Accord Ministries with another prayer alert. And let me just speak about something in a broader context, Roman. It's important for you folks out there in the body to understand that this is a very, very serious summer. We have a tremendous amount of spiritual warfare going on, much more so than usual. It's like the enemy has really amped things up. You know, of course, partly we also have the whole thing with the politics that's going on. In America, we have the urban violence that's going on and the black-white thing, which is really terrible. And, you know, in Europe, they've got a whole other set of problems. And the enemy is using all of this discord, all of this hatred, all of this bickering and bloodshed and whatnot to fuel the dark enginery of his work. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand that.
That's right.
The enemy, Satan, he needs blood and hatred and fear and anger to keep his systems going, because he is a finite being, unlike our Heavenly Father, who is infinite and whose power is so vast that compared to him, the devil is like a piece of chewing gum under his foot. So we need to understand that. We need to really take prayer seriously, especially for some reason this particular summer with the two political conventions, with the Satanic days that I'm about to talk about, and with all the other stuff that's going on in the world. We need to be serious about being spiritual warriors and entering into hand-to-hand combat with the forces of darkness in the name of our Messiah, Yahushua. Okay, that being said, right now we are coming up on a Satanic holiday that's not very well known. On July 23rd, we have the feast of Sothis or Sirius, and of course it's the hottest time of the year, and I'm going to get a little more into that in a moment. But first, I would like to read a passage from the 91st Psalm, which is the, of course, premier spiritual warfare psalm in the Scriptures. And in verse 5 and 6 we read, and again, this is the promise of our Father, "Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday." And right now, brethren, we when the sun is so high in the heavens, it is the destruction that wasteth at noonday that we need to be doing warfare against. So just bear that in mind as we get into this. Now, from the standpoint of astronomy, the star Sirius is the brightest star in the heavens, and it has been long associated with the occult and with dark things, and I'm going to kind of elaborate on that. But the reason for this in the beginning was in the cradle of civilization, in the Fertile Crescent and in Egypt back thousands of years ago, the star Sirius, which is in the constellation of Canis Major, the great dog, the time that it's highest in the heavens is the time, this July 23rd period. And that coincides, especially in Egypt, with it being the hottest time of the year and with the Nile River receding. And as some of you may know, Egypt, particularly back then, depended on the Nile River for irrigation, for agriculture, for essentially really its entire civilization, because beyond a few miles on either side of the Nile River, essentially Egypt is mostly desert. And so because of that, this time of year when Sirius was high in the heavens and the Nile River was receding, was considered a time of profound evil and ill omen and all of this stuff. And so therefore it became associated with a time of great spiritual darkness. Now, because of the fact that this star is in it's the brightest star in the constellation of the great dog, it came to be known as the dog star. And it's also associated with the pagan goddess Isis in Egyptian mythology. So this is where we get an expression that's being used even to this very day of the dog days. We use the dog days to describe this period of mid to late summer when it's so terribly hot, at least in the northern hemisphere, and especially as you get closer to the equator where Egypt is, where Israel is. It's a time of profound heat and dryness. And so this is the dog days. Now, the funny thing about this star is it has a very weird history in terms of human interaction with it. Several decades ago, a Professor Temple discovered a tribe in Mali, in West Africa, that worshipped this star. And he wrote a book about it called the Sirius Mystery. And what he discovered is that this star, for several thousand years, all the way back to 3000 BC, they knew about this star and they regarded it as a very sacred object in the heavens, but they also taught that it had a dark twin. And like a counterpart star that was invisible, but they somehow knew it was there. And in their religious lore, they believed that beings from the stars, that they called the nomos, came down from heavens, from perhaps the Sirius star system, and came to Earth and gave them this knowledge. And these beings were described in their mythology as being like mermen and mermaids, kind of semi-aquatic humanoid beings. Now, I believe these were fallen celestial beings, fallen angels of some sort, that came down to deceive these people. And they taught them about this dark twin. And so this knowledge has come down to us, and I believe they brought this over into the Egyptian system, which of course is also northern Africa, and down to the very present day. And the funny thing is that as recently as 1970, only like 45 years ago, astronomers finally discovered the fact that yes, Sirius is a binary star system, and it has a dark twin, a small star that's not visible to the naked eye, that orbits around the big star Sirius. And of course they're scratching their heads because how did these ancient tribesmen from West Africa know about this dark twin? And of course here's where the ancient astronaut people come in and they say, oh well, they were ancient aliens that told them this. Well, no, it was fallen angelic beings. So please keep your head focused on what we're talking about here. Don't run off and look at ancient alien shows. In any event, in Egyptian lore, this dark twin is Set. Now you see, Set is the brother in Egyptian mythology of Horus. Horus is the good guy, so to speak. He's the son of Isis and Osiris. And Set is his wicked brother. Okay? And it ends up actually that Set murders Horus. And this whole cycle, I don't want to get into that because it would be an entirely different teaching. But the point is, this is a core part of Egyptian mythology, that Set is this dark twin. He is like the Satan version of Egyptian mythology, and this date, July 23rd, is his day. Now, Crowley, Aleister Crowley, who many of you may know of, he was like the greatest magician of the 20th century in terms of satanic stuff. I don't mean magic like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. I mean, occult magic. This guy basically wrote the book almost literally on dark satanic magic in the early and mid 20th century. He died in 1947. In any event, Crowley was very much into this Set current, the current of this dog star Set, and when he was put in charge of the OTO, which was a high-level occult Masonic Rosicrucian society in Germany that moved to England, Crowley was made the head of the English-speaking part of that order. And it had 9 degrees in it, and the 9th degree involved sex magic. Well, Crowley, being the perverse, wicked man that he was, he to commemorate this whole Set thing, he created an 11th degree working within this order that was in fact homosexual sex magic involving, sodomy. So, and he did that to commemorate the dog star Sirius. So this all is all kind of clustered around this thing. And of course, you need to understand that even though this man died in 1947, there's tens of thousands of people that follow him to this very day, just as there are many, many thousands of people that still try to invoke this ancient Egyptian religion. I'm not talking about what's in Egypt today. I'm talking about the ancient, Egyptians from like the time of Moses and so on. This stuff is still going on to this day. And from Crowley, the torch of evil, so to speak, was passed to another fellow by the name of Dr. Michael Aquino. Now, Michael Aquino was an associate originally of Anton Szandor LaVey, who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. Well, this Aquino split from LaVey because he didn't think LaVey was being serious enough about Satan. And so he started his own organization, this Dr. Michael Aquino did, that was called the Temple of Set. Now, this guy is a pretty formidable individual. You need to understand that he is very high up in the Army intelligence. I believe now he's a general. He was at the Pentagon with the highest possible security clearance, and the guy is and was a devil worshiper. He would call it Set, he wouldn't call it Satan, but it's the same thing. And this guy was actually in charge of psychological warfare development. He created an entire PSYOP division that was called Mind War back 2 or 3 decades ago. And at the same time, he's running the second largest satanic church in America. Isn't that wonderful? Then you wonder why you have problems in our armed forces today with spiritual warfare. So in any event, this guy started the Temple of Set because he said Set is a representation of the alienation and the loneliness that human beings experience today in our contemporary society. And he felt Set was a good, false God to worship in that context. But by doing that, he brought all this stuff into play, drawing upon this same current of July 23rd. I had an opportunity to debate this guy in a local TV show in Seattle 20 years ago or so, and I was ministering out there, and I'll tell you, he is a formidably evil person who's also been accused of child abuse and ritual child abuse, but of course, because of his connections in the Army, nothing was ever done about it. So, again, all this energy is being channeled into this holiday. So, on top of all this that I just shared with you, this particular year, it happens that there is this electronic music concert that is called Tomorrowland that's being held in Belgium on that date, July 23rd, 2016. But it's being also simulcast live in other cities, and one of those cities is unfortunately Jerusalem in Israel. That is Yahweh's Ir Kodesh, his holy city. And yet these people are having this, and it's called Unite. And of course, it's not unity under the truth of the scriptures or Yahushua. It's unity under the false religious system that everybody's trying to bring about, from the Pope to the United Nations to all of these left-wing loony leaders in our nation's political scene, and all the liberal and even the evangelical and charismatic leaders are all bowing the knee to the Pope and kissing his ring and saying, oh, you all need to get back together again under the Holy Father. Well, this concert is just an attempt to gin up even more dark energy for this. Their motto of this concert this year is look into the mirror and unite. And, how creepy is that from the occult perspective? So we need to understand this is going on, and it's an incredibly evil thing to have something like this in Jerusalem, the holy city. And so they're just piling on thing after thing after thing to make this the worst possible season. Now, what do? We don't give up, because Yahweh is our defender. Yahweh is on the throne, and we need to call upon him that he might show us great and mighty things, because he's going to do that. But we need to pray. We need to call upon him. We need to fast and pray that these evil forces that are beginning to gather like never before. We have not ever experienced the level of warfare in 30 years of ministry that we have this season, this summer here in 2016. It's been terrible, and it's only getting worse. So we all need to pray more, fast more, and really smite the enemy hip and thigh with a sore slaughter.
Amen.
So, what can we do? Well, number one, we advise praying against the principalities of Set, Sothis, and Isis. These are the big strong men that rule over this date, and pray that they would be cast down by the sword of the Spirit and the battle axe of Yahweh and all the other offensive parts of the armor. We pray against the anti-Messiah spirit and false unity, because as I said a moment ago, this is an attempt to bring everybody together into the one world religion, the one world government. So supposedly we're all going to have peace, but we're not, because we're only going to have peace when Yahushua comes back to earth in power and glory to set things right. True. This is just false peace that's going to end up in carnage. Just read the last part of the book of Revelation. This is also a time of child and canine sacrifice, and a time also when many survivors of Satanism and Setianism and these various other creepy groups are particularly stressed out. You need to pray for these people. And if you have some of them as friends or family members or in your congregation, you need to surround them with prayers too, because these are very hard times for people. It's just like if you're someone who is alone and you've lost your family or whatever has happened during the holidays. It's a very stressful time for you, like during the winter holiday season. Well, the same thing is true for these sort of holidays, for these kinds of brethren. So please be aware of this and pray for them as well. But pray for your children, especially, because they're going to be targeted. They're going to want to grab children and use them in horrible ways during this season. Also, if you have dogs, especially German Shepherds, we advise you to start keeping them indoors, for the next few days during and around this particular holiday, quote unquote. And because they will sacrifice, especially the Brotherhood of Satan likes German Shepherds, but they'll pretty much settle for any dog to fulfill the bloodlust of this particular holiday. So please, be aware of that if you happen to be an owner of a dog. Also, we would recommend, if you feel so led, to pray the divorcing Baal prayer, which we have on our website at withoneaccord.org for free download, that you can pray and really unravel the dark threads that the evil one and his minions are trying to weave around your family, around your city, around your nation, and indeed around our entire world. So, we need to really come together and pray and beat back these forces of darkness. This is not a time for sunshine patriots. This is a time for people that are really going to go to the wall and smash through the powers of darkness with their prayers, with their intercessory prayers, with their fasting, and by using the full armor of Yahuwah, including all the offensive weapons that we've taught about. And again, all of this is on our website. And if you want to know more about some of these dark things for your own purposes, we do have a book, Lucifer Dethroned, that gets into all of the details of these various kinds of satanic groups. And it's also a testimony of how I got out of these things. Hallelujah. So that's, because I was in this stuff about as deep as you can get, and Yahushua set me free in 1984, and I've hit the road running for him and to spread the word about him and how he can set people free, and I've never looked back. Hallelujah. So please pray. especially over the next few weeks. And also, please pray for us because, like I said, we're getting hit like never before. And if you find this material valuable, please subscribe to this channel. Please share it. And please pray about becoming a supporter of With One Accord Ministries to keep this work going. Thank you so much, and may you be blessed. Shalom.